Hi everyone, this is Jessica Nielsen. Welcome to Business Law 201 Summer 2014. This is a little intro to the class, similar to what I would do if we had a face-to-face meeting. These are some questions I think you might have at our first class. 1. Why should you care about business law? As it says here, business law is woven into the thread of business life, and if you don't know the law, you can easily violate it. On the flip side, knowing it can help you make good decisions, good planning, stay within the law, and generally be a happy citizen. Oh my gosh, I have just looked at the syllabus and there's so much to do in this class. How am I going to be able to do this all in 8 weeks? Yes, admittedly, there is a lot to learn and absorb. This class is jam-packed full of information for you, in part because we have to cover these subjects to make this a transferable business law class. So the universities are demanding that we teach this much material, and it just so happens we only have 8 weeks this summer to do it in. These are some suggestions for you. Consider making flashcards, working with a study partner, highlighting your book. I will give you a video, much like I'm doing right now, about midway through the week that hits the highlights of the chapters and tells you what you should have learned. I hope that helps. Well, doesn't the law change all the time? I mean, what's the point of learning the law if it's going to change? Well, actually, it does change, but law is very conservative and changes slowly. Also, a lot of people don't know this, but there's a lot of similarity between the laws in different states, with the exception of Louisiana. It kind of stands out. They follow the French Napoleonic Code instead of the common law system. So Louisiana's a little different, but for the most part, all the states across the U.S. follow what's called black letter law. And that just means that the law is so similar, it can really be extracted and examined and pulled out, and it's similar across all states. Just by way of proof for that, I personally have taken 4 state bar exams so that I can be a lawyer in Oregon, California, Massachusetts, and Washington. And I can tell you that the law I studied is very similar throughout all the states. Well, you might ask, what about you? What about you, Jessica? Tell us about yourself. I was an English literature major, which was very fun. Basically, I got to read old novels in front of the fireplace in my apartment and talk about them. It was fantastic. I would have been a teacher in English if I thought I had a chance of getting a job with a PhD in English literature, but I figured the odds were better if I went to law school, that I could teach law. I did love law school. I was number 1 in my class all the way through, except for the summer of love, which brought me down to number 2. I'll talk about that later. And I worked for a federal appellate judge in New York City and then in Los Angeles for big firms. I got what's called a master's in law. That's the shorthand for an LLM at Harvard Law School. And believe it or not, I've been teaching for 12 years with 3 of them at the UW Law School. Well, should we consider further education in law? Absolutely. You can get an AAS in paralegal studies at Highline in 2 years or less if you have your other education, like math, science, etc., out of the way. In Washington, there's a unique rule that says that you don't have to go to law school if you follow what's called the APR, which stands for Admission to Practice Rule 6. The APR 6 law clerk program. You can Google that, and you have a bachelor's degree. You can actually work for a judge or an attorney for 4 years and make money, and then sit for the bar exam instead of having to go to law school. Of course, law school is an option as well, but law school costs approximately $150,000. It's pretty expensive. But law is hugely empowering, very creative, but yet it has a lot of logic too. Logic is kind of the basis of law, and I think it's fun. So I hope I convince you of that this summer. Do you have some lawyer movies you recommend? Yes, everyone on this list is excellent, and I will make reference to some movie pages, law movie pages. I might even make it an extra credit assignment or give you some opportunity to review a movie for fun this summer. We'll see how it goes. Well, now I'm worried. I'm taking this online class. I'm all by myself. What happens if I don't understand something? You have lots of options. You can email me, phone me, stop by my office. I'll have a questions for Jessica discussion board that will be open the entire course. You can also Google it because a lot of the law in this class is, like I said, black letter law. It's pretty common law throughout the entire U.S. And you just don't want to sit on any questions. If you go through the material and you have questions, you need to get them answered because if you don't answer your questions, that question could easily pop up on a midterm or final. Another quick question is, well, how do I know it's on the midterm or final? I will give you good guidelines for that when I post my um, slides that say what you should have learned from each chapter about midway through the week. Well, how often will I check the questions for Jessica discussion board? I will check the discussion board at least once a day, probably more, but the fastest way to make sure you get to me is email. So even if you post something on the discussion board with questions for Jessica, please email me as well because I'll get it to it much, much faster. And I want to meet your needs in this class uh, as much as possible. Okay, this is my first time using Canvas for an online class, so I hope you have a little patience with me. I will certainly have patience with you as you figure out Canvas. Let's do this together. I'm excited. It's going to be fun. Email me if you have any questions already. Okay? Take care.